It started with a scream so loud it cut through the hum of a normal Saturday afternoon. "Hey, you don't belong here." Her voice cracked the air like broken glass. People froze. Heads turned. And in the middle of the sidewalk, a man stood stiff, shocked, while a woman with wild eyes and clenched fists grabbed his shirt collar and yanked hard enough to pull him forward. The man gasped, choking. "I can't breathe." His voice rasped out, half a whisper, half a plea. And what did Karen do? She didn't let go. She screamed again, her spit flying, her face twisted with rage like she was auditioning for a horror movie. Why? Over what? Nobody knew in that moment. But the chaos pulled strangers into orbit. Phones came out, recording, documenting, and the truth was about to spill out in a way Karen never saw coming. The man wasn't some trespasser. He wasn't some threat. He was just walking home with a bag of groceries. Yet in Karen's world, that was enough reason to treat him like a criminal. I swear, the air went electric. You could hear the uneasy whispers. Who is she? Why is she doing this? A woman nearby gasped and stepped forward, trembling but brave. "Let him go," she shouted, her voice cutting through the madness. But Karen snapped back. "Mind your own business," and yanked harder on his shirt. The man's face flushed red, his hands pushing weakly against her grip. He wasn't fighting back. He couldn't. His groceries spilled, oranges bouncing across the pavement, a carton of eggs cracking open in the mess. That sound, the snap of shells, the sticky splatter, felt like a punch to everyone watching. And then, like fate had been listening, a siren wailed in the distance. Karen froze for a split second, eyes darting. But did she stop? No. She dragged him closer, practically nose to nose, and shrieked, "I'm not letting you get away." Get away from what? The man didn't even know her. The crowd didn't either. Yet here she was, playing judge, jury, and executioner on a random sidewalk. The police car screeched up, lights flashing, doors swinging open. 2 officers jumped out. "Ma'am, let him go," one shouted, firm and commanding. Karen whipped around, hair flying, her voice cracking. "No, he attacked me first." "What?" Gasps erupted all around. People pointed, shouting back at the cops. "No, that's a lie. She grabbed him." Dozens of cameras lifted higher. Every second was being documented. The man collapsed onto his knees when she finally let go, sucking in air like he'd just surfaced from drowning. His chest heaved, his eyes wet and desperate. One officer knelt beside him, hand on his back. "You okay? Can you breathe?" The man nodded weakly, still clutching his throat. The other officer turned to Karen. "Ma'am, step back." And that's when the twist began to unravel. Karen didn't step back. She lunged forward again, screaming, "You're not listening. He's dangerous." Her finger jabbed the air like a weapon. The crowd erupted, shouting over her lies. "We saw everything. She attacked him. Check the videos." Phones waved in the air like evidence flags. The officers exchanged a look. Professional, but tense. They knew this wasn't just a he said, she said anymore. This was about control, about truth versus fiction. Karen's face went pale as the officers asked for witnesses. One by one, strangers stepped forward. A teenager held up his phone, shaking but defiant. "I got it all on camera," he said, voice cracking. Karen's mouth opened and closed like a fish gasping for water. "You don't understand. He doesn't live here. He's trespassing. He looked suspicious." Her excuses fell flat against the hard evidence. The officer raised a hand. "Enough. Turn around." "What?" Karen screeched, her voice reaching a pitch that made people wince. "You're arresting the wrong person." But no, this time, The cuffs clicked around her wrists. The crowd roared. Cheers. Claps. Sighs of relief all blended into a single wave of sound. Justice was happening right there on the street. Karen thrashed, the metal glinting under the sun as she cried out, "You're making a mistake." But nobody believed her anymore. The man, still trembling, lifted his head. His voice was broken but steady enough. "I don't even know her. I was just going home." His words carried the weight of truth, the kind of truth that silences everything else. And then, here's the kicker. Someone in the crowd recognized Karen. A neighbor. She stepped forward, voice trembling but loud enough for all to hear. "That's the same woman who tried to stop the delivery driver last month. She said he was stealing packages. But it was his job." A murmur rippled through the bystanders. Heads nodded. Stories spilled out. Whispers of her past outbursts. The way she terrorized delivery workers, teenagers, anyone who didn't fit her picture-perfect fantasy of the neighborhood. This wasn't her first scene. It was just the first time she'd been caught in high definition, with 100 witnesses and nowhere to hide. The officers guided Karen toward the cruiser. She screamed, kicking the door frame, her voice hoarse. "You'll regret this. I was protecting you. He's the criminal." But the irony. At that very moment, the man's phone buzzed on the pavement where it had fallen. The officer picked it up, handed it back to him. On the screen, a food delivery app glowing bright. He was literally walking back from picking up groceries and dinner for his sick mom. Karen had attacked a man just trying to care for his family. The cruelty of it landed heavy. The crowd's mood shifted from anger to disgust, then to something colder: satisfaction. The kind of satisfaction that comes when arrogance finally meets accountability. Karen, shoved into the back of the cruiser, still fought against reality. But the cameras kept rolling. Every second streamed. Every shout documented. By nightfall, the videos would flood the internet. Her face plastered on timelines across the country. Can you imagine? One minute you think you're the hero, the neighborhood savior, and the next, you're the villain everyone can't stop talking about. That was Karen's reality now. The man sat on the curb, still shaken, his shirt collar stretched and torn. A woman handed him a bottle of water. "You're safe now," she whispered, her voice gentle against the chaos. Safe, but scarred. The redness around his neck told the story no words could. The sound of his gasp, that choking, desperate sound, would haunt every witness for weeks. As the cruiser pulled away, Karen's muffled screams fading into the distance. Someone in the crowd said what everyone else was thinking. She finally got what she deserved. But here's the bitter truth. Her story wasn't ending in the back of that car. No, that was just the beginning. The charges: assault, false reporting, disorderly conduct. Her homeowners association board seat, gone by the next meeting. Her reputation, shattered in hours. And when the viral clip hit 3 million views, her employer released a statement. "We do not condone this behavior." By Monday morning, she was jobless. Karma doesn't knock politely. Sometimes it crashes through the door, cuffs in hand. The man, meanwhile, found unexpected strength. He spoke out, on camera, later, in interviews. His words carried more power than Karen's screams ever could. "I just want people to know. You can't treat strangers like this. We all deserve to walk home without fear." The footage became more than evidence. It became a lesson, a mirror held up to society's ugliest impulses, and a reminder that sometimes the loudest voice is also the most dangerous. And Karen, she learned the hard way that false power only lasts until the truth steps in with flashing lights and cold steel cuffs. So the next time someone like her thinks they can scream, grab, accuse, and get away with it, maybe they'll remember this night. Maybe they'll hear the echo of those sirens. Maybe they'll picture Karen, red-faced, thrashing in the back of a cruiser, while a stranger finally took his first full breath of freedom. Because justice doesn't always come easy. But when it does, it's unforgettable. And Karen, she'll never forget the day she thought she had control, only to lose everything in front of the whole world. I thought I was dreaming. A woman middle-aged, sharp-jawed, pearl earrings was yanking on my father's ventilator cord like she was unplugging a damn toaster. "He doesn't belong here," she screeched. Like that somehow made sense inside an ICU. The monitor alarms screamed louder than my own thoughts. Nurses rushed in, mouths gaping. My jaw clenched so tight I could feel it lock. "What the hell are you doing?" I shouted, lunging at her. My heart was thundering in my ears, faster than the blinking red lights going off around my dad's bed. She whipped around, lips twisted in this grotesque smirk. "You're violating HOA medical restrictions. This man doesn't have residency rights." That was the moment everything shattered: logic, patience, any last fragment of understanding. I looked at the nurse beside me, wide-eyed and frozen. She's not family. She's not even human. And she wasn't. At least not in the way decent people are. Her name was Margaret Densley, self-proclaimed president of our neighborhood HOA and, according to her, guardian of moral standards. She'd harassed my dad for 2 years straight over everything from a non-regulation wheelchair ramp to the color of our mailbox cream instead of beige. Beige. But this was evil. My father had collapsed just 4 nights ago, heart failure, out of nowhere. We called the ambulance. We didn't stop to check HOA bylaws. Who the hell would? But Margaret Karen, to anyone with a soul, somehow found out he was being kept alive in a medically induced coma and marched into the ICU with forged documents claiming she had proxy authority, as head of the HOA, to have him removed from care. I kid you not. She forged a legal-looking letterhead with the HOA seal and a signature from someone named Dr. Harold E. Morrison. There was no Harold Morrison at the hospital. Security confirmed that fast. But the real kicker? She slipped through the first round of checks. They thought she was family. She dressed the part. Calm at first, until she touched the damn cord. "She shouldn't be here," I yelled. The head nurse finally snapped out of it and pressed the red button near the bed. 2 security officers burst in, both big and armored in navy polyester. Karen held up her paper like it was a divine scroll. "By legal order of the HOA. Put that down and step away from the patient," the taller guard barked. Karen scoffed, lips curling. "This man is in violation of community rules. She brought unapproved medical equipment into a residential zone, and his family refused inspection for over 48 hours. He's a fraud. A fraud." I nearly sobbed. "That's my father. He's a retired school principal. He spent his whole life teaching kids like you not to become monsters like her." She didn't even flinch. The officers grabbed her arms and she screeched, louder than the alarms. Nails flying, threats flying louder. "I'll sue. You're all getting lawsuits for false imprisonment. This is a citizen's arrest. I am entitled." The ICU hallway echoed with her banshee wails as they cuffed her and dragged her backward out of the room. I could still hear her, even as the nurses reset the monitors, even as I dropped into the plastic chair beside my father's bed, my hands trembling. What kind of world lets a woman like that get so much access? What kind of system hands a neighborhood committee more power than common sense? And why wasn't this the first time she'd gone this far? 3 days later, I got my answer. The detective assigned to our case, Officer Mallory, came by my home with a stack of papers. She had a tired face, the kind that's seen too many forms of human failure, and she set the folder on our kitchen table like it weighed 1,000 pounds. "Your HOA president," she said slowly, "has been under quiet investigation for over a year. We believe this latest stunt is the last nail." "A year? But no one said anything." "They couldn't," she sighed. "Too many NDAs. Too many families scared of retaliation. But now, with hospital footage, witness statements, and proof of forged documents, this lawsuit's going to burn." I opened the folder and saw copies of complaints. Pages of them. One resident's disabled mother had been denied ramp access. Another had their oxygen generator disconnected during a routine HOA inspection. And worse, there were settlements. Hush money. Karen had done this before. She'd gotten away with it because she knew how to scare people. She knew how to threaten legalese, how to forge enough fake power to freeze people in place just long enough to get what she wanted. But this time, she tried it in a hospital. This time, she picked the wrong victim. The case went public. Fast. Local news got hold of the ICU footage. Karen's face contorted, red and shrieking as she's pulled away from my dad's bed, and it made headlines. HOA president assaults ICU room. Fraudulent paperwork leads to hospital lockdown. People started coming forward. A woman named Lorraine posted on Facebook that Karen once tried to evict her son, who had Down syndrome, claiming he was unauthorized adult occupancy. A veteran shared how she fined him $300 for putting up a flag outside of regulation hours. And then came the twist I never saw coming. Officer Mallory called me again. "You're going to want to sit down." She was right. Turns out Karen wasn't just HOA president. She was never officially elected at all. The real HOA board had disbanded 3 years prior. Karen had filed paperwork to keep things in order. But none of it was ratified. She wasn't just a fraud in the hospital. She was a fraud everywhere. My knees nearly gave out. "You're saying everything she's done? Every inspection? Every fine? All those citations? They're fake?" Mallory nodded. "You've got grounds for a countersuit if you want. So do a lot of families. We're helping file a class action." Oh, the irony. Karen had threatened me with a lawsuit, had screamed the word like a magic shield. Now she was going to face the real thing: multiple lawsuits, forged signature charges, attempted assault in a medical facility, maybe even elder endangerment. The courtroom was quiet, eerily so. Karen finally stood to speak at her sentencing. Her lawyer kept glancing down, probably wishing he could sink through the floor. The judge stared her down over his glasses, unimpressed by the trembling voice she tried to use like a shield. "I didn't mean to harm anyone," she stammered. "I only wanted order, peace, structure." Peace? Is that what she called unplugging a dying man in an ICU? The prosecutor didn't even need to counter. The evidence spoke louder than any plea. Forged legal documents, harassment reports, witness testimonies, the viral security footage of her being dragged out of that hospital room. The judge sentenced her to 18 months, with mandatory psychiatric evaluation and community service, ironically, at the same hospital where she caused chaos. But the real blow? The civil lawsuit. By the end of the week, our class action had ballooned to 26 families. All with stories. All with receipts. The damages demanded totaled over $2 million. And thanks to her phony fines and fabricated authority, she couldn't afford a tenth of it. Her lawyer tried negotiating. We said no. You see, this wasn't about money. This was about making sure no one else like her ever had the chance to abuse fake power again. This was about sending a message. You don't get to play God in your neighborhood, in a hospital, or in the life of someone who can't fight back. She called us bullies. She called us a smear campaign. But in the end, the only fraud exposed was her. My father is recovering now. Slower than I hoped, but every breath he takes is proof we were right to fight. And every time I visit, I whisper, "Still here, Dad. Still winning." Let this be a reminder. Not all villains wear masks, some wear name tags and smile during HOA meetings. And not every lawsuit is about money. Sometimes, it's about justice finally catching up, even if it takes a while to knock on the right door. If you believe people like Karen deserve their karma and the courtroom, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more real justice stories just like this one. You ever try to relax for one weekend, just one, and then your life turns into a circus? Yeah. That was me on a Saturday morning, when a fire marshal showed up at my door holding a clipboard like it was a damn sword. "Ma'am, we received a complaint about hazardous storage near your pool," he said, voice clipped and dry like burnt toast. I blinked at him. "You've got to be kidding me." But nope, he wasn't. I stepped out onto my porch, still in my robe, staring at his badge and bright yellow vest like they were part of some reality show prank. I could already feel the storm brewing in my gut. I knew exactly who filed the complaint, and I swear, If it had been legal to scream underwater, I would have done it every time I swam past her yard. Karen, HOA board president, self-appointed neighborhood sheriff, and the human equivalent of nails on a chalkboard. My pool area? Immaculate. I kept the fire pit sealed, the propane stored properly, and even had a certified contractor sign off on everything last year. But Karen? She didn't like seeing my guests, my music, or God forbid me having a good time. It wasn't about safety. It was about control. Well, let's take a look, I muttered, tightening my robe. The fire marshal followed me through the gate and into my backyard. I could already see her watching through her blinds, those judgmental little eyes slicing through the glass like lasers. He checked everything. The deck, the pool house, even opened the propane cabinet and made a few notes. His brow furrowed slightly, then relaxed. No citations. No danger. I let out a breath I didn't even realize I was holding. Everything here's up to code, he finally said. But the complaint mentioned some kind of open flame apparatus in use? I tilted my head. You mean the citronella candles? For mosquitoes. He looked at them, then back at me. Yeah, that doesn't qualify as a hazard. A low, dry laugh bubbled out of me. Would you like some lemonade before you go? He smiled faintly but declined, then paused. Actually, I noticed something strange on the walk over. That unit, he pointed to the end of the cul-de-sac. There was a chemical smell coming from the garage. Do you know who lives there? My heart stuttered. Karen's house. Oh, her, I said, trying to mask my rising curiosity. That's Karen. President of our HOA, she's very proactive. He raised an eyebrow. Proactive? I nodded. Extremely. He flipped his notepad, jotted something quickly. Well, thanks for your time. Stay safe. He left, and I watched closely. 20 minutes later, a second truck rolled into the street. Unmarked. 2 men in dark uniforms got out. Then a third. The neighborhood dogs started barking. I swear I heard Karen's front door slam so hard it shook the birds from the wires. Then the shouting began. You don't have a warrant, she screamed, voice pitchy and high like a boiling kettle. This is private property. You can't. But they could. And they did. I walked to the edge of my yard, not even pretending not to watch now. A few other neighbors peeked from their porches too. Mr. Donnelly from across the street was already holding his phone up, recording. Boxes. Clear plastic bins. One after another came out of Karen's garage, each one labeled with ominous black tape. Solvents. Accelerants. Laboratory-grade containers. The fire marshal stood next to one of the inspectors, arms crossed, jaw set. What the hell, I whispered. Then came the crowbar. They pried open a cabinet inside her garage, and that's when I saw it. Tubes. Canisters. Glass containers bubbling with something faintly yellow. She had a lab. A full-blown, backroom chemical lab tucked behind gardening tools and fake flowers. And not the kind of lab used for cute Pinterest science experiments. This was serious. Industrial. Illegal. My mouth dropped. I was so stunned. I forgot to breathe for a moment. Karen had been reporting me for fire hazards while cooking up God knows what next to a gas heater. Oh no, I muttered. Oh no, no, no. I stepped back, heart thudding with disbelief, confusion, and a touch of giddy vindication. Sirens wailed down the block. Police this time. One cruiser. Then another. This wasn't just a code violation anymore. She was done. A few neighbors were now outside full-time, phones out, whispering in packs. Mrs. Liu was shaking her head, muttering something in Mandarin that sounded like a curse. Even old man Hal, who never came outside unless someone died, was out in his robe squinting like he couldn't believe his cataracts. I watched as Karen, red-faced and trembling, was handcuffed right there on her pristine front lawn. She was still yelling, still blaming. It's not what it looks like. It's for my essential oil candles. You don't understand. One officer lifted a jar with metal tongs. Lady, this is acetone peroxide. What were you doing with this? It's just for cleaning. No one believed her. As she was escorted into the back of the cruiser, She made eye contact with me. And I swear, if looks could kill, I'd have burst into flames right there. But I just raised my lemonade glass and gave her a slow, sarcastic salute. Boom. Karma. Now, here's the kicker because you know there's a twist coming. Turns out, Karen had been running that illegal setup for months. One of the inspectors told the local news they suspected she was making bootleg cleaning supplies and flammable fuel alternatives to sell online, probably for cash, under the table. No safety permits. No ventilation. Not even proper fire suppression. My pool? My citronella candles? That was the least of anyone's worries. And the best part? Her HOA role didn't protect her. In fact, it sank her faster. When word got out that she'd been using HOA inspection powers to cover her tracks, issuing fines to neighbors, collecting anonymous reports, and forcing board members to look the other way, the whole HOA board was put under review. Half of them resigned that week. Oh, and her house? Seized for investigation. Fire marshal said it best. Funny how the loudest one screaming about rules is usually the first to break 'em. You'd think that'd be the end of it. You'd think that'd be enough. But no. Karen posted bail. Came back a week later. Swanned around the neighborhood like nothing happened. Like she hadn't been caught red-handed with half a meth lab in her garage. And guess what she did? She filed a complaint. Against me. Said I was harassing her by slandering her reputation. Couldn't believe it. Lady? I muttered under my breath, rereading the HOA letter. You slandered yourself. I was about to toss the notice when something in the corner caught my eye, an unfamiliar signature. A new name. Looks like someone else had taken over as interim HOA president. And they'd written something under the complaint in red ink. Request denied. Further action may result in sanctions against you. I laughed. Out loud. Full-bodied. A deep, righteous sound that echoed off the stucco walls. Karen was no longer queen. She'd gambled, lost, and now the whole kingdom was in ashes. She showed up to the next HOA meeting like nothing had happened. Hair perfectly curled, lips stiff with gloss. The same fake pearl necklace choking her pride. The room went dead silent when she walked in, but Karen didn't flinch. She carried a manila folder under her arm like it was a legal weapon. I'd like to speak, she declared, with the kind of arrogance only someone recently arrested could still muster. The new HOA president, a calm retired attorney named Mr. Castillo, didn't even blink. You're not recognized, Karen sneered. According to Article 7, Section 3 of the bylaws, I still have speaking privileges. You're under active investigation for board misconduct and criminal negligence, he said coolly, tapping his gavel. Your privileges are suspended until further notice. Collective breath was held. Then someone coughed. Someone else laughed quietly, but loud enough for Karen to whip her head around. I will be filing a lawsuit, she hissed, her voice wobbling under the weight of embarrassment. You people have no idea what you've done. Oh, but we did. And the evidence was still public. Half the neighborhood had downloaded clips of her arrest. The fire marshal's official statement had gone viral on the local Facebook group, and word was a class action lawsuit was brewing against her. Several homeowners were considering suing for harassment, false citations, and fines she'd levied illegally over the years. As she stormed out, heels clacking, folder trembling, I swear you could feel the tension drain from the room like someone had opened a window. Mrs. Liu exhaled. Mr. Donnelly clapped once. Slowly. Even old man Hal gave a rare, gravelly chuckle. She finally blew up her own lab, he muttered, sipping his lukewarm coffee. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the space she'd occupied just moments ago. It was almost funny. For all her threats, all her HOA ultimatums, it had taken one fire marshal and her own arrogance to bring the whole facade crashing down. The best part? She didn't just lose the vote or the board seat or her credibility. She lost the right to pretend she was better than everyone else. And now, she was just another bitter neighbor waiting for a court date, dodging lawsuits, and watching her empire crumble from the inside out. Poetic justice? No. It was legal justice with a side of karma. If you liked this story of HOA drama, karma, and one explosive downfall. Make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel for more wild true stories. And maybe updates on Karen's next lawsuit. I couldn't believe what I was seeing: 3 grown men in matching polos and mirrored sunglasses muscling their way into the neighborhood pool, barking orders like they owned the place. "You! Out of the water! Now!" one of them shouted, pointing at my 8-year-old daughter like she was trespassing. "Wait, what? This was our pool. We paid dues, we followed the rules. So who the hell were these guys?" I stood up so fast from the lounge chair my flip-flops slapped against the concrete. My heart thundered. Was this a prank? A misunderstanding? No, it was Karen. Of course it was Karen, the HOA president, who acted like she was running a military base instead of a sleepy suburban cul-de-sac in Georgia. "Excuse me," I called, striding toward them with a towel still half draped over my shoulder. "Who are you and why are you yelling at my kid?" One of them turned, muscles bulging like he'd walked straight out of a roided-up catalog. "HOA enforcement," he grunted. "Private security. Orders from Ms. Holloway. You're not on the authorized guest list today." "Authorized what?" I laughed, too stunned to even mask my fury. "That's my daughter, and this," I pointed around the pool deck, "is in the middle of the subdivision I live in. So unless you forged a whole new HOA charter this morning, you've got no authority to be here." The big guy didn't flinch. The smaller one behind him, though, shifted uncomfortably, like the word forged hit too close to home. My neighbor Sheila leaned in and whispered, "I think Karen's trying to set you up. She's been spreading rumors again, something about you using fake residency to access the amenities." I nearly choked on my own spit. Fake residency? I'd been in this house 7 years long before Karen and her plastic roses moved in with her catty little committee. My kid was now clutching her towel, eyes wide with fear. I clenched my fists jaw tight. "You need to leave," I told the men. "Right now, before this becomes a lawsuit." "Oh, you want to go legal?" the taller guy said, chuckling darkly. "Let's go." And then they moved toward me, not running, just slow, threatening steps like they thought they could intimidate me into backing down. But I didn't move, not 1 inch. A deep voice behind me said, "I'd reconsider that." I turned, and my lungs filled with relief. It was Mike, me cousin, ex-military, current off-duty police officer, and thank the stars wearing his chest-mounted body cam. And he wasn't alone. Beside him was Jenna, another off-duty officer who happened to live just 2 houses down. Both of them were already recording. The moment those 2 enforcers spotted the body cams, their postures snapped like dry twigs in a fire. "We were just enforcing HOA code," one mumbled, trying to ease back. Mike stepped forward. "You're not law enforcement. You're not even licensed security." His voice was cold steel. "Do you know it's a felony in this state to impersonate an officer or act as one without credentials?" The tallest one paled visibly. The third guy, he started backing toward the gate. Karen was watching all this from across the street, peeking through her blinds like some nosy witch in a discount thriller. I could feel her eyes boring holes in my skull. "What's your name?" Jenna asked the guy who'd barked at my daughter. "2M, just doing what Karen told me." "Not what I asked." He stuttered out a name. Jenna raised an eyebrow. "We'll be checking that." "Mike, you got their plates." "Already got M." Mike tapped his phone. "And a nice clear face shot from my cam too." The 3 of them turned tail and ran. Not walked. Ran like teenagers busted at a house party. I exhaled shakily, adrenaline flooding out of my arms. My daughter threw herself into my side. "Mommy, were those bad guys?" I kissed her forehead. "Not anymore, sweetie." But I wasn't done. Not by a long shot. Because here's the thing, this wasn't Karen's first stunt. She'd filed fraudulent complaints about my garden shed being illegal construction. She'd circulated fake newsletters with new pool policies that just happened to exclude single-parent homes like mine. And apparently now she was forging HOA enforcement rules and sending thugs after children. This wasn't about pool rules. This was harassment. 2 days later, I met with the HOA board's legal mediator and laid everything out: Karen's fake newsletters, the unauthorized security team, the body cam footage, the implied threat to a child. And then I added the cherry on top. I'm formally pressing charges for impersonation, harassment, and endangerment. You should have seen the lawyer's face. She actually winced. You have video? I nodded. And it clearly shows them acting under HOA orders? Her name was used, repeatedly, and we've got text screenshots to another resident from Karen, saying I won't last long at that pool. Want copies? That was the moment her hands started shaking slightly as she reached for a notepad. And Karen? She tried to spin it, of course. She sent a mass email saying I had hired friends in costume to manufacture drama. She called it a domestic terrorist smear. What? Seriously, who writes like that? But the nail in the coffin came from an unexpected source. The smaller guy, one of the enforcers, emailed me directly. I almost deleted it, but something made me open it. He wrote, I didn't know what she was really doing. She said we were enforcing temporary rules. I didn't sign up to intimidate kids. If I testify, will you drop charges against me? Boom. So I called Mike. We've got a cooperative witness. He just laughed. Karen's cooked, and she doesn't even know it yet. By the end of the week, I had an attorney, a deposition, and 3 sworn statements, including one from Sheila, who'd seen Karen stuffing fake memos into people's mailboxes. And just when I thought Karen couldn't dig her grave any deeper, she filed a counter lawsuit. Yes, against me, claiming emotional distress and character defamation. She even had the gall to say I cyberstalked her with bodycam footage. Lady, the only thing stalking you is karma. The court date was set, and I was ready. Karen strutted into that courtroom like she was walking a red carpet, wearing this ridiculous oversized blazer and smug grin like she actually believed she had a case. I sat across from her, calm, collected, and armed with facts. Beside me, my lawyer, Mike, Jenna, the cooperative witness, and a flash drive loaded with footage, screenshots, and HOA documents that she had forged. As the judge looked over the evidence, you could feel the air change. Thick, tense. Karen's smile twitched. Ms. Holloway, the judge began, holding up the printed screenshots. Are these emails you sent? Karen blinked. I mean, the sender matches your personal email. The one registered with the HOA. Karen shifted in her seat. Her lawyer leaned over and whispered furiously, but it was too late. Then came the video. The courtroom lights dimmed slightly as the footage played. Her security team threatening a child. Karen's voice on the phone saying, make sure that woman doesn't feel welcome again. The judge turned back, expression unreadable. You filed a countersuit for emotional distress. Yet here, we have repeated evidence of premeditated harassment, impersonation of authority, and forged HOA policies. You endangered a minor. You involved unlicensed enforcers. And then, you tried to spin it as a fabricated stunt. Karen's face went bone white. Her lips parted, but no words came out. Your countersuit is dismissed. And you, Ms. Holloway, are hereby under investigation for fraudulent HOA practices and civil harassment. Boom. Just like that. She slumped in her chair like someone had pulled her strings loose. One by one, the board members she'd manipulated stepped away. The HOA officially voted to remove her 2 days later. She lost her position, her reputation. Andy faced a real lawsuit for damages and false representation. And the best part? That smug little pool she'd tried to weaponize against me? It's now the backdrop of every weekend block party. Karen hasn't shown her face there since. So the next time some power-drunk Karen thinks she's untouchable, remember truth leaves a trail. And when you've got the facts, the footage, and the courage to stand tall, they always trip on their own lies. For more real stories where justice hits harder than any HOA letter ever could, make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel because the next lawsuit might just be hers.